Chicago is renowned for being an incredibly diverse city. From neighborhoods like Pilsen to West Rogers Park, every major language is spoken within the city of Chicago. However, Chicago is also infamous for being one of the most segregated cities in the country. This segregation isn't just ethnic or racial, but also financial segregation. Evidence of this is seen within our lack of affordable housing in middle to high income areas. By implementing affordable housing into middle or high income neighborhoods, we can increase the effectiveness and success of affordable housing while setting a global example. We've all heard the horror stories surrounding affordable housing. Cabrini Green, arguably the most well-known example of affordable housing, drove fear into Americans' hearts. Affordable housing or low-income housing became synonymous with danger and violence. But let's dissect what exactly affordable housing really is.
The way that affordable housing is done and where it's located is very different than what you learn in school. Most original affordable housing sort of originally was created as it was sort of working class housing and evolved as a way to sort of fit between what was available on the market and lower cost public housing options. So in many areas, affordable housing is used as a redevelopment tool to sort of bring up areas where the housing stock isn't as good.
That was Richard Koenig. He's been the director at the Housing Opportunity Development Corporation for the past 19 years. Richard also had a comment on the conditions of affordable housing.
And so the physical design of what an affordable housing looks like is really no different than any other housing of a similar stock. The buildings that we have that are affordable, I would challenge people to go to a block where there's a whole bunch of apartment buildings, and of the, say, 20 buildings on that block, pick out which one is the affordable one. Figure out which one is, see if you can tell which one is different. And there's no different. The way that I want people to be able to tell which is the affordable one is that's the one that looks the best.
Now, you may be wondering, who exactly lives in affordable housing? To answer your question, a very select few amount of people. Approximately 1 in 4 people who apply for affordable housing actually get accepted. I still wanted to hear why it was so beneficial to integrate affordable housing. In order to get a better understanding of this, I sat down with Richard Sherentino, who is the founder and co-president of Brinshore Development.
The neighborhoods where people live that need affordable housing in inner city neighborhoods, for example, lack the social infrastructure, school, education, and amenities that will allow them the opportunities to advance. And so many people think now that the proper way to do that is to integrate those people into neighborhoods that already have that infrastructure in place. And so that's the idea of building affordable housing in more affluent areas that enable them to access good education. In particular, that's one. Jobs is another one, but good education in particular.
I grew a better understanding of how the integration helps the people living in affordable housing. But what about the people already living in the community? Things got a little bit emotional when I sat down with Jane Hornstein, who works at the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Well, I think it's important that, I think we learn so much and we gain so much when people, when we learn about other cultures, when we learn about how other people live, when we think about how things should be. It's sort of what our country is founded on. And it's been a constant battle for this country all the time. We have more immigrants, and how do we integrate them and bring them into the melting pot, and yet allow them to maintain their culture, and and how do we learn from it, and what do we gain from it? So I think this is it's all part of who we are and what we do.
Got it really accurately.
In fact, there was even a Supreme Court case in 2015 that revolved around the integration of affordable housing.
The pinnacle of this discussion happened last year. There was a Supreme Court case that originated in Texas where someone sued the Texas allocation agency that provides all the subsidies to build affordable housing, and they claimed that all the affordable housing was being built in low-income areas, and just by virtue of that fact, it was discriminatory under the Fair Housing Act.
So we know that the integration could teach pre-existing residents about diversity and increase acceptance, so why would people be against it? One reason is economics. People claim it will diminish property value, but time and time again, this has been proven false.
Empirical evidence that has come in around the country is demonstrate that there is little to no effect on property values from the placement of affordable housing. So that's one of the big arguments that you get, is that it's going to lower my property values because there's going to be affordable housing which has less value than whatever I live in. And that's usually the economic argument that you see.
Finally, I had the opportunity to speak with James Stockard over the phone. Mr. Stockard is an urban planning professor at Harvard University, located in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He had something to say to people who were against the integration of affordable housing.
Building permanent, decent, affordable housing should be universally popular. Liberals should like it because it fits with the goals they have for serving the full range of people in the society. And conservatives should like it because it fits their needs of let's spend the least public dollars on solving these issues. So I don't quite get why everybody doesn't love affordable housing.
Stockard also outlined what he believed was the worst problem with affordable housing today.
So the single thing that's most wrong with affordable housing in this country is we simply don't put enough money into it. And that's because we don't treat housing as a right. And in my estimation, that's a problem. Housing, in our country, one should have a right to a decent quality house in an appropriate place. That's what the 49 Housing Act says. We've never delivered on that. But I believe we need to somehow recommit ourselves to establishing an entitlement to a decent housing place.
Throughout this project, I learned a lot about affordable housing and the stigmas behind it. I learned that not only would the incorporation of affordable housing into high-income areas help residents, but it would also help community members, teach them about diversity and acceptance in our world today. I hope that Chicago can stand tall, set a global precedent, not only for other cities in America, but for countries around the world that are considering incorporating affordable housing into high-income areas. By incorporating affordable housing into middle or high-income neighborhoods, we can greatly improve the quality of life for residents while creating a more accepting and diverse environment all throughout Chicago, a city that I am proud to call home.